For over 25 years, one of the most successful programs on television was a show called Hee Haw. Well, did you know that no one has ever gotten together all the cast members of that great show for a big old reunion? We thought it was high time that happened. So Country's Family Reunion decided to throw a big celebration for all the cast members of that great show. Set up some cameras, film it all for you. And everybody wanted to come, from Roy Clark to Gordy Tapp, George Lindsay to Lulu Roman, Buddy Allen Owens to Buck Trent. They all wanted to be a part of this reunion. We call it Country's Family Reunion Salute to the Kornfield, hosted by Bill Anderson. The stories are hilarious, the music unforgettable, and the memories, they'll last a lifetime. The front porch is waiting, so grab a glass of your favorite iced tea and enjoy the memories as we present Country's Family Reunion Salute to the Kornfield.
You know, so many people are so surprised because Lulu Roman was known as a comedian and funny and everything on Hee Haw. And you and I have done a few things together in recent years out on the road. People are amazed at what a great singer you are.
She is.
Yeah. You are a wonderful singer and, of course, a delightful comedian. Which came first? Were you singing before you got into the comedy? Or
Well, no. I always aspired to be the comedian because I was always the fat kid. See, so that was the blanket, okay? Didn't really sing until I had my experience with the Lord. And I heard somebody sing a song, and it just moved me to the core of my being. And I prayed, and I said, God, that's what I want to do. I want to sing. And if you'll let me sing and sing for the Lord, I'll make a fool out of myself anytime, anywhere. And God's just been so gracious to allow me to do that. And never had a voice lesson. Don't read music. Don't rehearse unless somebody makes me, okay? And God has just been so good to me that, I just turned 65 years old, and I think my voice is probably stronger now than it's ever been in my whole life. And thank you, Lord. Thank you. And I've been so blessed to get to sing gospel music and country music. Now we're doing something a little different.
Okay. It's not gospel, it's not country?
Nope.
Okay, what is it?
It's a surprise.
Oh, something you're going to lay on us today?
Yeah, I'm going to sing.
All right. Well, surprise us.
Okay, I'll do it. Has come along. My lonely days are over, and life is like a song. Yeah. At wrapped up in clover. The night I looked at you, I found a dream that I can speak to, a dream that I call my own. I found the thrill to press my cheek to, a thrill that I have never known. You smile, you smile, you smile.
Roman. Wow. That's a long way from Nicole Haynes.
It is, isn't it?
My goodness. That is so great. Joe Babcock.
Lulu sang the first gospel song that was ever on Hee Haw. For a long time, we had wanted to get gospel music on Hee Haw, or close the show out. You know, back then a lot of people closed their shows with a gospel song, you know. And Sam Lavello, our producer, wanted to do that. And they wouldn't let him do it. And they said, well, this is a comedy show, you know, we don't need gospel music. So finally Sam convinced him to try it one time.
I've got a story that goes with it.
Okay, well, you finish the story then, Lulu, because you know what the song was. And they tried the one gospel song, got so much fan mail, it was overwhelming. And from then on, we closed every show with the gospel song. And what was that first song you sang?
Well, what happened was after I had my experience with truly giving my heart to the Lord, most of you knew me when you first met me as a very large drug addict, okay? Not too many people said anything because everybody knew. But I had an experience with the Lord, and there was a lady that had a television show. Her name was Catherine Kuhlman, okay? And she would touch people or wave her hands, and they'd just all fall down, you know? And so they had called and asked me if I would come to Los Angeles and be on Catherine Kuhlman's show, and I said, no, thank you. And they called about a month in a row, kept calling, and I kept saying, no, thank you. And they said, well, she called one day and said, would you just tell me why? And I said, because I'm not going to fall for anybody, because it'll take a crane to get me up, okay? So they finally called and said, well, Miss Kuhlman has agreed not to touch you. So the funny thing was when I went up and did the show, and then afterwards I thought, I think I'm going to run by over at Young Street and just say hello to everybody. So I walked in the door, and Marcia was there. And I said, hi, and she said, may I help you? And I said, Marcia! And she said, Lulu? I had changed so radically that she didn't even know who I was, and ended up spending several hours in the office there, and everybody said, what are you doing? I said, well, believe it or not, I'm singing. And they said, no, you're not, because they had spent a whole day's worth of videotape trying to get me to sing a song called I'm the Only Mama That'll Walk the Line, okay? And it was so bad, they never showed it. Never aired it, didn't. I think Ganella ended up singing it. She got away with it, okay? And so they said, really? And I said, yeah. And I said, you want to hear? And they said, well, yeah, you know. So I stood there and sang my little couple songs for them, whatever. Everybody was just like, and Sam was really precious, and he said, you know, maybe there'll be a good chance that you could come back, you know. And I said, well, being someone who's truly committed to the Lord, I said, I'll pray about it. And I said, if it's God's will, then I'll come back. And so Sam called and said, we really want you to come back. I said, okay, here's the deal. I'll come back if you'll let me sing my gospel music. And so Sam called me back and he said, well, the guy said it's okay for you to sing your gospel music, but they don't want you to say that name, Jesus. And I said, well, that's not a problem, because I've got a truckload of songs that say Lord and Savior, okay? So I came in and I sang Blessed Assurance, Jesus is mine. And they were all like, okay. And I love that, because that was a very precious thing in my life, that God allowed me to bring gospel music to Hee Haw. He did.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You know, one of the unique things about Hee Haw was there was the music. There was a great mix of the music and the comedy.
And excuse me. Yeah, we got pros and cons in the fan mail, and it was almost 50-50. 50% wanted more comedy, less music, and 50% wanted just the opposite. And the powers that be figured, why mess with something that is working so far? So they left it alone. But there was quite a bit of fan mail with their public opinion.
Well, I'm sitting here looking across the room at Don Heron, who was such a big part of the comedy routines on Hee Haw. Yeah, sure. Don, it's great to see you. Such a fan of what you did, the character Charlie Farquharson. Have to be careful saying that.
Well, I first heard about the idea of Hee Haw when I was in Chicago playing Shakespeare. Yeah, Frank Pepe had called me. He and John Ellsworth were Toronto boys like me. And when they moved to the States and did the Sonny and Cher show, and they did a couple of specials with Sinatra and with Judy Garland. And I was in the middle of Shakespeare, and they said, want you to come to Nashville, do your country character, and Gordy Tapp's coming too. And I said, oh, the good, because I had known Gordy since he was a little tap on his father's side, you know. And we were the two Canadian, not wetbacks, snowbacks, coming across the border. But I said, I can't go until the summer because I've got to go to London. I had helped write a musical called Anne of Green Gables. It's a great children's book in Canada, a great classic. And we had turned it from a black and white television show into a musical because Queen Elizabeth II came to the opening of the building in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, where it now plays in its 47th season. And we had Glenn Gould and all kinds of Lauren Green, MC, and Wayne and Schuster. And the Queen came back, and she didn't compliment anybody. She said, they had our title song in the show sung by a local girl. And she said, that's a rather pretty tune. Where's the rest of the show? And so they called me in California where I'm doing television. And they said, that's a royal command, Buster. And I said, well, get the rights, Buster. And then we did it. They didn't get the rights till the middle of May. We opened in June. But we got it. It took us 5 years to get the show right. And then we took it to London, England. And we opened. And it got the award for the best musical of the year in London. So I was making the album of the show at Abbey Road Studios, where the Beatles walked across the road. And then I had, as soon as they finished recording, I had to fly to Nashville to start this summer replacement show. And Nashville was not the town it is today. The Holiday Inn had a crack in it, as I remember. The only restaurants I remember were Minnie Pearl beef and Minnie Pearl chicken. I had no beef with Minnie Pearl, but her chicken was pretty good. But no McDonald's or Wendy's or Colonel Gaddafi's fried chicken. You know, that came later. So we started the show. And the local critic in Toronto said, if you watch this show, you do not deserve to own a television set. Oh, yeah, that was the hometown reception.
Well, now, did you already have the Charlie Farquharson character?
I started the Charlie Farquharson character. Well, I worked for him in 1942. In 52, we started television in Canada, and I did it with my father's old blue suit. But then I had to do a weekly thing beside a mailbox doing country humor, and I didn't have a costume. Next door, the two guys were doing the weather. One was Norman Jewison, the great film director, who did all the Jesus Christ Superstar and Fiddler on the Roof in the films. He was wearing this hat, which his father used to pull his cukes with. And I said, Normie, can I borrow that? I'll bring it back to you tomorrow. And he said, sure. I said, who's the guy over there? He says, that's Norman Campbell. He became my composer of Anne of Green Gables and 4 other musicals. And I said, Norman, I'm Don Heron. Hiya, Don, how are you? I said, can I borrow your sweater? I'll bring it back tomorrow. That was 60 years ago. I never did see them. I mean, they came to visit, once in a while. But that's the character. And it was very, Frank said, when you come, bring 14 newscasts. And I did them. I was the northern carpetbagger. I would fly in the morning, I would do my 14s, and I would go. Except one day, I was watching a musical number, and I did some steps that I'd seen on Soul Train from Detroit. And so made me stick around. I can't sing. I got an award from the Canadian Music Country Association last September. I was so guilty. I went to Edmonton. I said, look, I can't sing 2 notes in the same key. Can't play an instrument unless you consider a comb with a piece of toilet paper. I said, I do turkey on the straw on that. She said, but the reason I'm here is because 2 guys from Toronto started a show in across from Laugh-In. Laugh-In was very sophisticated, and Hee-Haw was what you know. Laugh-In lasted 3 years. Hee-Haw lasted 25. The difference? Laugh-In didn't have any country music. So.
Well, nobody loved Hee-Haw but the people. I mean, the critics, as you said, they put it down.
I'd like to do
but the people
I was the
loved
Walter
it from the get-go.
Cronkite of Hee-Haw. I'd like to do the news. If I just check my glasses. Is it okay if I do the KO?
Absolutely.
Okay. Charlie Farquharson here with your KORN Hot Flash News. Gurney Bootland, local ne'er-do-well of Sump Corners, was up at court for fishing without a permit. Gurn says he figured on not needing no permit for to catch fish with, on account of he's been making out pretty good with dew worms. Judge Seymour Bushy said this was your 3rd time Bootland had been up in front of him for being offensive. So the judge fined old Gurn $50 or 30 days. Well, Gurn said if it was fine with the judge, he'd just take the $50. Judge Bushy told Gurn he was supposed to pay the $50 to the court so he wouldn't have to do the 30 days. So Gurn just smiled, turned out his pockets, and said, Your Honor, I'm afraid you can't get no blood out of this old turnip. No, said the judge, but I can keep it in our cellar for 30 days. Next case. Here's some more news at court. A mutual divorce was grunt today to Mr. and Ms. Wick Smallman of Extreme Junction. Mrs. Wick, she was Irma Leach that was and is back to being a leech again on her father's side. She got that divorce on the grounds of her has-been being a hopeless narcissist. That means Wick is pretty stuck on himself, and he wouldn't pass the mirror in the hall without staying for quite some time without moving. But Wick, he claims he was given the divorce on your grounds of fiscal cruelty. On account of every time he got a chance for her to admire herself in the mirror, the wife would go and throw a bucket of cold water over the both of them. Irv Nuchter of Moot Point darn near jumped to a concussion last week when he fell off Verrill Torpid's barn during last week's silo filling. In bed with a confound fracture, Irv don't expect to be back at work all that soon, now that his workman's constipation has just set in. Here's a shocking story from your No Surprises Motel. Feg and Melva Sprunt of McKeester's Rapids done their honeymoon there last weekend, but found there weren't no bed in their hotel room due to recent renovations. Your management told the bridal couple nothing could be done for a few days and advised the newly marred pair in the meantime to stand up for their conjugular rights. Your Women's Institution of Bent Falls gave out their annual awards last night as one of their number become Housekeeper of the Year. It was given to Daisy Cressy to Floyd Haskins Grossly Mulepeter on account of she has been married and divorced 5 times, and every time she done it, Daisy has managed to keep the house. And finally, Sarah Lee Poundcake is proud of her 1/8 Cherokee blood and has decided not to pass away like everybody else, but has made arrangements for her body to be interred in a deep freeze at that cyclonic cryonics institute. And there she hopes to stay until her disease goes out of style. The only thing worries Sari is having her 3 ex-husbands all standing in front of that display case and saying, there she lays, just as she was in life. Frigid!
Gordy Tapp, let me ask you, so you
Yeah.
in addition to being a performer, you were one of the writers.
Yes, sir.
On Hee-Haw. We
I
kinda
was a
got
head
into that.
writer in the beginning, but I didn't want to go live in California. So they worked out, had another fellow in California take over, but we did all our writing at home and then sent it in by computer.
But how do you write for somebody like a Junior Samples?
Just look for things that are dumb. And I don't mean that in a nasty way, but anything you did for Junior, if he didn't screw it up, it was funny when it was real, you know. I got a great kick out of him. He used to just burn me up because we'd sit there doing The Family, and when they were doing Bars and Tone, he said to me one day, "Do you have a dog?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I got a dog." I said, "What kind of a dog?" He said, "A hunting dog." I said, "Well, is he unusual?" "Yeah." He said, "I drove into Cummins one day. I had a 1949 Plymouth with a 4-bar carburetor." As if that meant any dent. And he said, "I drove in with my dog, and my dog jumped out of the car and pointed to a man." And I went over to him and I said, "You got any birds on you?" He said, "No." "Why?" He says, "Well, my dog's a bird dog and he's a-pointing at you." The guy says, "Probably that's because my name is Jack Bird." I said, "You took me down the golden path for that stupid joke." But he was great. You want to talk more about Junior? Because Ricky brought up something that I thought was funny. When we had the black singer, Ray Charles on the show. They were rehearsing, and Frank was standing by the piano, and I came in to listen to the rehearsal. And Frank said to Ray, he said, "This is Gordy Tapp. He plays the storekeeper and Cousin Clem and the old philosopher." And Ray Charles said, "Hey, man, the old philosopher, the guy that gets his hat blowed off." I thought, how could a blind man know that? But apparently he did put things together that you wouldn't think, you know. It was unbelievable. We had Donnie was talking about his hat. I got my hat at, I was the master of ceremonies at the Canadian National Exhibition, and Jimmy Durante was on stage, and he did a number called, "Do you ever have the feeling that you wanted to go, then have the feeling that you wanted to stay?" And he had this old hat, and he'd put it on. "Do you ever have the feeling you wanted to go, and then have the feeling that you wanted to stay?" And when he finished the number, he threw the hat on the floor, and I picked it up, and he said, "What are you going to do with that?" I said, "I'm going to put it in the dressing room." He said, "Keep it." And I kept it, and I've still got it. And I've had it for a long, long while. That's the funny things that happen.
You've got a song that's something to do with Minnie Pearl, don't you?
Yeah, well, it isn't about Minnie Pearl. It's about a guy, a country boy who loves country music shows. And he goes to all of them, and he sees signs like Roy Clark, Minnie Pearl, Grandpa Jones, and many others. And he thinks, I ought to see many others. And he goes to all the shows to trying to find her, but he never does get to see her. And that's what the song's all about. It was written by a guy named Neil Merritt, and Neil was killed in a car accident right after he wrote it. But I recorded it, and I've had a lot of fun with it. I'll do it for you now.
Hey, where was Hee Haw originally taped?
WLAC, James Robertson Parkway.
TV studio, Channel 5 in Nashville.
I never put this old hat on that I don't think of a story that I tell on the stage about two old country boys in Tennessee are walking in the woods, and they came to a big hole, and one said, Buford, I wonder how deep that hole is. It's awful big. You could drive a truck down that hole. He said, wait till I get a stone. So he threw a stone down. They listened. They didn't hear anything. Said, we need a boulder. They got a big boulder. They rolled it down. They listened. They didn't hear anything. And the other one said, we need something big. Look, now there's a railroad tie. Grab the other end of that and we'll chuck it down. So they did, and they threw it down. They listened. They didn't hear anything. All of a sudden, goat came out of the woods and right between them and down the hole, just flying. He said, that goat was crazy, doing 100 miles an hour going down that hole. Guy come out of the woods saying, you boys see a goat up here? Yeah, I said, we saw him. He just went between us and down that hole doing 100 miles an hour. He said, that wouldn't be my goat. I had my goat chained to a railroad tie. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's do the song. There's something that's been bugging me for years, and at least it come around to crying tears. Every time a show comes to our little town, you'll always find me backstage looking round. I got my autograph book in my hand. I ask each star and member of the band for the autograph that I have never got. Seems to me by now my patience is nearly shot. Many others is a girl who's been all around the world, though her name is always mentioned down below. Out in front the sign proclaims, up there with the big stars' names, Minneapolis is appearing on the show. I keep wondering, does she dance or does she sing? Is she just off stage there hiding in the wings? She married to a Grand Ole Opry star. Does she travel in a bus or Cadillac car? Andy Travis would be easier to see. She's been on shows with him, you will agree. I must have been asleep when she was on. Even Randy didn't know where she had gone. Any others is a girl who's been all around the world, though her name is always mentioned down below. Out in front the sign proclaims, up there with the big stars' names, many others is appearing on the show. I went up front and sat in the second row. Heard old Mike Snyder's picking his banjo. Archie Campbell was the last one on the stage. Folks around me said I blew into a rage. Many others is a girl who's been all around the world, though her name is always mentioned down below. Out in front the sign proclaims, up there with the big stars' names, many others is appearing on the show. Thank you. A lot of fun. I guess.
I had my own show in Canada for 13 and a half years called Country Hod Down, and we hired all the Grand Ole Opry people and had them work with us on the show. Grandpa come up and worked with me several times in the early 50s, and Ramona. And I was up in a place called Flin Flon, Manitoba, doing the Trout Festival. And I got a guy came to me and he said, do you know Jonathan Winters? And I said, no. He said, well, he knows you. He's on the phone. I thought, what the heck? So I went to the phone and picked it up and I said, Jonathan? He said, no, Gordy, it's Frank Pepiot. Frank and I were friends in Canada. He came from Canada, and John Aylesworth, the both producers. And he said, we've got a show, a country show, and we don't know anything about country. Can you come and help us? I said, well, what do you want me to do? He says, just get out here. So I flew out to California, and I hired Grandpa Jones, Minnie Pearl, String Bean, Roy Acuff. Who else? They were the major ones anyway. And they came on the show, and then we began to get others. This gorgeous thing came in and became Nurse Goodbody, and she still has a good body. But it was an interesting thing the way it all happened. And I had a great experience. I was on the plane one day flying to Nashville from Canada, and I took off, or I got on in Atlanta, and they seated me in 3A. And the stewardess came along and said, "Mr. Tapp, would you mind sitting in 3B?" And I said, "No, what's the problem?" She said, "It's not a problem, but we have a statesman that gets on and uses that seat all the time, and they inadvertently gave it to you." I said, "No problem." The man got on in a gray suit, gray hair, horn-rimmed glasses, and the Washington Post under his arm, and he sat down beside me. And we ignored each other for a few minutes, and then we took off. The stewardess came and put down the trays, and he reached over and touched me on the knee and said, "Are you on that funny show?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." "Well," he said, "we watch you at our house, and we sure do enjoy it." I said, "Thank you, sir, but you have the advantage of me." "Oh," he said, "I'm Senator Fulbright." I said, "The Ways and Means Committee." He said, "You know more about me than I thought you would." So we talked, and when I got home, I said to my wife, "You know, you fly over these houses, you see the antennas, you don't know how many people are watching you or the people that are watching you." Thanks a lot, guys. It's been fun being with you. I think this thing's going to be a big success.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
We've talked many times over the years on our family reunions about how great family harmony is. And there's no better than this bunch right here, the Whites. And, of course, Ricky Skaggs is part of the family. Does that carry over? When you marry into the family, does that mean you sing family harmony?
I think it does. I think it kind of it carries over, kind of bleeds over.
Our kids do now.
That's the truth.
Somebody said you're going to do an old song that you did on Hee Haw.
We are. This is a gospel song. It's a Stanley Brothers song that we sang many years ago on Hee Haw. And it was just one of those moments we remembered, and it was just a real special day. And so we thought, let's do that today.
Make it another special day.
Well, It's a good song anyway.
It's the Whites and Ricky
It's already
Skaggs.
been a special day, yeah.
Down in the valley, while on my knees, I ask my Jesus, hear me please. He promised that he'd take care of me if I would lift him up.
He said if I lifted up,
be lifted up.
He said if I be lifted up,
I'll be your father, I'll be your mother, I'll be your sister and your brother.
He said if I
Be lifted up,
I'll bring joy
to your soul. When I am lonely, when I am sad, my Jesus comes and makes me glad. He is the dearest friend I have had. I want to lift him up.
He said if I
Be
be lifted up,
be lifted up.
He said if I
Be lifted up.
I'll be your father, I'll be your mother, I'll be your sister and your brother.
He said if I
Be
lifted up,
I'll bring joy
to your soul.
That is so good.
Amen.
We're done singing now.
We did a Carl out.
Go get him, Buck.
Don't let him get you, Buck.
That's great. Hey, Buck Trent, you've
He did
got
that to Carol Lee one time.
you've got several things that you do. You go out on the road and all and do a show now.
Did some shows, yeah.
Yeah, and you've done some of our family reunion road shows.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
People love you, man.
Oh, thank you.
That little talking blues thing that you do.
Yeah, Talking Blues. Robert Lund did the first ones years ago in the Grand Ole Opry. Then when I started doing them on Hee Haw, I started to have to write them. And, you know, you get jokes out of Reader's Digest and all that. Sam Lovella called it Up and Down the Country. And so we taped 13 shows in June, 13 in October. And I'd have to have 13. And I would sit on the little stool and the ducks would be coming by. And that's where oh yeah, come, you know. Well, I run out of something to say and I just say, oh yeah, at the end, hey, yeah. Yeah. You want me to do that?
Oh, absolutely.
You do?
Of course.
You gonna play with me? Huh? No, you ain't gonna play. You want to play with me? I was down in the hen house on my knees and I thought I heard a chicken sneeze. Sneeze so hard with a whooping cough. Sneezed his head and his tail right off. Oh, he lost his head and his tail.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other day I got this notion and it was strange because I had mixed emotions. Sort of like seeing your mother-in-law going back over the cliff in your new Cadillac. I thought, no. I thought, yeah, and I thought, oh, yeah. I was down in the in-house the other day. A great big wind nearly blowed me away. Chickens was a-going out of their minds when one old hen laid the same egg 3 times. Oh, was it windy? It was a hurricane. Oh, yeah. Well, I saw a rooster chase a hen when a worm crawled out of a chicken pen. He stopped and ate the worm, let the hen go free, and I said, oh, Lord, don't ever let me get that hungry. No, I've seen sicker chickens than this get well. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh, yeah.
You ain't lost a lick.
I ain't?
No.
See? You're older now.
Hey, does Buck stay there with the banjo while Roy's got the guitar? I tried to get y'all to do this earlier, and we ended up playing dual and banjos instead. Do a little bit of the things that Roy and Buck Owens used to do, the picking and grinning stuff, where you'd pick a little bit and then you'd stop and tell a joke or something.
And they're going to join with me.
You play the part of Buck.
I'm going to play the part of Buck. Where's his son sitting over? I ain't going to say too much. I'm going to play his part. Who's going to play Roy?
Whatever it takes to get it done.
Let's see.
Hey, Buck.
Hey, Roy.
It's my turn.
It's your turn.
Yeah.
Say
Are
it.
you still involved with those racehorses?
Racehorses?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? I went to Kentucky Derby. Yeah, they took me to the Kentucky Derby. Did they take me? They took me to Kentucky Derby. I bet.
Which one was the leader?
Oh, I bet on a horse so good it took 7 horses to outrun him. Hey, Roy. Hey, Buck. Hey, I think they were a little off, pal. I think we're a little off.
We ain't done this in a while.
Well, I know it. We're out of practice. That's right, pal. Yeah. My horse come in, so the lady had to tiptoe into the barn.
He did?
Yeah, I ain't saying he was way back, but the jockey stumbled. It's the first time I ever seen a horse start from a kneeling position. Hey, Roy.
What, Buck? You got me leaning now.
Are you still playing golf?
Am I what?
Are you playing golf?
A little louder. I can't hear you. I'm looking for a golf ball. Took away your punchline, didn't it?
Yeah. Where's that thing? Where's the words? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm playing golf. Yeah.
Are you playing
Yeah,
golf?
but we got new rules at our golf course.
Oh, really?
We
And
got
what
new
are
rules.
they?
Yeah, you can't pick up lost balls till they stop rolling. But we got a new tournament started.
A new tournament?
The Gatlins, yeah. We got a new tournament starting tomorrow. You got to be 80 and older to play at a tournament. Yeah, you only play 3 holes, and whoever remembers the score wins. Boy, it's raining the other day, wasn't it, pal?
Was it really?
Was it raining?
Out at your place?
The animals are pairing off. I ain't said it's raining. Some man named Noah called the courthouse down there trying to get a building permit.
You heard one, Buck, you've heard them all.
That's right. Well, you can't beat a couple of bucks, can you, pal? Buck White over there got the second dollar he ever made. First one he bought a billfold with. That's enough.
Buck and Roy.
I tell you, you're funny.
Picking and a grinning.
Oh, Lord, you got tears in my eyes. And that's the way it... Well, how long were we together?
Well, counting what? I tell you one thing, it's a lot better waking up than it is coming to, ain't it?
Hey, Buck. Hey, Buck.
Right.
Buck. You know, there's a big difference between a coma and a good night's sleep, right?
Come out.